We are live for the Foundations of Reading Test exam and the Praxis teaching reading. So let me just check and make sure everything is good. Looks like I'm live. Let me know in the chat if you can see me and hear me. And let me know if you're taking the Foundations of Reading by just typing FORT, or if you're taking the Praxis teaching reading and you can put in 5205 or 5206. We're going over it all today. So you will be able to do all of that. I don't know why my Facebook is acting up. Give me 1 second. There it is. All right. And it looks like we are also live on LinkedIn and YouTube. Cool. All right, everybody. So we've got some people in here. Savannah, Ashley, Maria. So Maria, Ashley are taking the fort. Savannah's taking the 5205. Sarah's taking the 5205. Everybody can hear me and see me. Awesome. All right. Well, today we are talking about the reading exam. So if you are trying to get certified in reading, and sometimes you're trying to become a reading teacher, or you're in a district that requires all teachers to become reading certified. That's how it is in a lot of states where they want to increase reading scores. And so they believe that by you taking a reading exam, that should do it. I don't know if that's going to do it, but I'm here to help you pass that reading exam. So here are the books that I have, and I'm going to be taking excerpts out of these books. So this is our brand new latest and greatest, the Foundations of Reading test. This one is a Pearson exam. And all the tests I'm talking about today, they all assess the same things. I'm going to show you exactly what they assess. But this is our latest and greatest. Every time I write a new book, I get better because I get feedback from you guys. This one is all tabbed out based on, I don't know if you can see that, based on the different sections. I have classroom scenarios in here so you can see the different types of, skills and teaching strategies and what it looks like in a classroom. And then I just started this thing, and I'm going to be putting it in all the new books. And you have it in your other books as well. It's just not, it doesn't have the same little icon on it. But, I always say, think like a test maker. And so in all of I don't know if you can see it. See that little guy right there with the glasses on? It says, think like a test maker. Those are test strategies. Now, I have the same thing, and these are a little bit older. These are amazing. These have helped so many people pass. In our teaching reading book, the same thing. They're called quick tips in here, or test tips. So it's the same thing. It just doesn't have the little new icon on it. But this is the 5205, which is the elementary education reading. And this is the 5206, which is the K through 12. Some of you are taking the 5206, but very few people take that test. Most people take the 5205 or the Foundations of Reading. And I do see Macy is taking the 7000 series, which is the new elementary ed, and the 7002 is the 5205. It's basically the 5001 series, except the first section, which is the language arts and reading, is now changed to teaching reading, and it is this book. If you have our 7000 book, 7001, it covers that. I basically took this book and put it in the front of that book. Or if you've got this book, that's fine too. So there's just so many tests, but they all assess the same thing. We are going to be assessing reading and how we teach reading. And remember these words, because these are going to be good words on the exam. We teach reading in an explicit, systematic, and recursive way. All right. Now, I'm just going to explain those briefly. I want you to think of those every time you're answering a question. All right. So explicit is, and Mary Alice, you're taking the 5302. Stay here. This is all 5302 as well. It's all reading. Okay. Explicit. That's where we are teaching these skills in isolation. Here's why they have this on the exam. Okay. Probably many of you remember the whole language approach. That was used a lot when I was a kid. It was sort of like immerse students in reading and they will pick up the reading skills. And some students did. Some students did pick up the reading skills. But later we found through research that teaching phonemic awareness in isolation, like just teaching phonemic awareness explicitly, and teaching phonics explicitly, like zeroing in on phonics skills, teaching fluency in isolation alone. Those are the way in which students become better readers. Now, in 2 years, new research could come out and it may change. But so far, the research shows that when we teach these skills in isolation explicitly, that students achieve more. And that's what that is. We're not just lumping it all together and hoping people get it. Okay. Systematic means that we will be teaching in an order, meaning like you start with the first skill and you gradually get harder. And this is going to be in test questions where you have to identify what the teacher should do next. So for example, let's say the student has grasped the short vowel sounds with consonants. What's the next thing the teacher should do? You have to know, and I have it all in my books, you have to know what the next skill is. It would be long vowel sounds or maybe consonant blends. It depends on what the answer choices are. So this is a systematic approach. Also, the phonemic awareness continuum. The phonological awareness continuum. We start off with segmenting sounds, then we blend sounds, then we get into isolating sounds, then deleting sounds, phoneme manipulation, and then substituting sounds. It's gradually getting harder and harder. That's systematic. And we do that. We need to teach that way. And recursive is important, which has to do with the systematic, is because even though these skills are taught in order, sometimes we have to go back recursive to move forward. So for example, we might have to go back and refine our short vowel sounds before we get into long vowel sounds with the silent E. We might have to review digraphs before we move into trigraphs. It's just review. With writing, it's very recursive. We go back and we rewrite, revise, and all of that. Okay. So review one more time. Explicit means we're teaching these skills in isolation. And anytime you see the term explicit in an answer choice, it's typically the right answer unless it's attached to like a bad practice, like explicitly teach homework skills or something. That wouldn't work. But like explicit skills in phonics, explicitly teaching something, or modeling. Modeling is a big part of explicit instruction. Good words. Okay. Next part, systematic. There's an order. There's a continuum on which students learn these skills. And be careful, in real life, not everything is perfectly linear. We know that. But on the test, we want to make sure we understand that. And then recursive means we go back and review. All right. Let me go back into the chat really quick. Last time, this is Missy. Last time I missed the Pearson by 6 points. All right. You got it. That's 2 questions. You got this, Missy. Mary Alice, taking the 5302. Good. I saw that. I'll be taking the Fort. I love your books. Maria West, thank you so much. So user-friendly and informative. That's the goal, just to hit all the learning preferences. Some people are very visual. Some people like to read, all of that. I'm so glad you enjoy them. Every Praxis exam I've taken, this is from Amber, I have used your study materials and I've passed them all. First time with high scores. Awesome, Amber. Leah Gaster, I'm taking the 5002. Will this cover? Yes, this is the same. The 5002, Lee, is language arts and reading. So you're going to have some more writing and stuff on there. Like it's kind of outdated, but they still do the same thing. This is going to help you with the language arts and reading for sure. Okay. All right. I took my 5202 and haven't got my scores yet. 5202. What is that? Maybe you meant to do 5205. Now, these tests have a constructed response or an open response. So at the end of the test, you're going to have to rate. I'm going to do 2 today. And at the end of this webinar, you are going to get an email from me with the replay link and all of the resources. And that will include the 2 constructed responses. One's called an open response because Pearson calls it an open response. And one's called a constructed response because Praxis calls it a constructed response. Same thing. And you'll get that as well. So you can review that. All right. All right. Texas STR tab. Glad you're here. Same test. Pearson makes the science of teaching reading. Pearson makes the foundations of reading test. They all cover the same thing. I plan to do an STR book soon. I just haven't gotten around to it. Will this help for the 7002? Yes. The 7002 is the teaching reading. Do I get the Fort book or can I still use the 5205? Okay. Tawana. if you got the 5205 because we didn't have the Foundations of Reading book, you can certainly use that. Tons of people used my teaching reading to pass the Foundations of Reading, but the Foundations of Reading is a new book. It has new stuff in it, so if you want additional things, but if you're trying to save money, you're good with the 5205. You can pass the Foundations of Reading with the 5205. I'm taking the 5621 and the 5205. Good. PLT, I just did 5621 a couple of weeks ago. Check out my webinars page. You can get the replay there. All right. This is my first time taking 5205, and I'm scared since English is not my first language. Carolina, that's okay. Just work at it. You'll be all right. You can take this test multiple times, and a lot of people have to take it multiple times. You won't be alone if that's it. A friend of mine recently took his Praxis and passed on the first time. I asked for study material suggestions, and they said Kathleen Jasper. Good. That's amazing. Okay, can I use Fort to take the STR? Yes, Mariana. Yes, you can. All right, let me just go over a few things. With this webinar today, we got a free study guide. So if you signed up for the actual webinar on my website, and the link is in the description, if you're watching me on YouTube or Facebook, there's a link down there that says to get the materials for this webinar, go here. Click that, put in your name and your email. You'll be taken to a thank you page. You will get the webinar link to be in the actual webinar room. And then you will get the free study guide. Now, the free study guide is an abbreviated study guide. It's not as big as these. These are like 300 pages. You're getting an abbreviated study guide, but it's a great way to start out. If you're trying to save money, you can use our free stuff and piece things together. Obviously, the study guides have a lot more practice questions, but a lot of people use our free stuff and pass the exam. So it's up to you. You decide what you want to do. If you are attending this webinar, I have a colleague in the chat. Her name is Yana. She will give you an offer code. You'll get 20% off. So wait to buy, and you'll get 20% off. If you already bought the stuff, that's fine too. Just follow along. We're going to go over a few things that you may not know. One other thing, let's just have a look at, if you did not have time to download the study guide for this webinar, don't worry about it. I'm going to project everything. I'm going to pull out a few questions from the study material that you got with this webinar. And then we're going to do 2 constructed responses, because I feel like people really struggle with the constructed response. And I want to make sure you guys are ready for that. And it looks like Yana did put in the offer code. So if you're in here, you'll get the offer code. If you want the offer code and all the materials, sign up for the webinar link in the description, okay? Now, at the end of this, you're going to get an email with everything in it. So don't worry about trying to oh my God, I need to download this. You're going to get an email with everything. And if you sign up late, like you're watching this in the future, hello, future people, you're basically going to get the replay. And all the resources. So you're going to get the replay. You can watch on demand. You can rewatch. You can redo the constructed response, all of that. You'll be fine. Okay. So just follow along. All right. Is the 5205 teaching reading the same as the GACE reading test number 117? All right. Deirdre, GACE is made by ETS and 5205 is made by ETS. If they're both reading exams, I'd have to look up the number. You can email us if you want with this, and we'll be able to look at the specs. If it's the GACE teaching reading, then yes. If it's the GACE reading exam, like the Praxis core, no, it's a different test. That's like a reading test you do on the ACT. I have to figure out that number, and I can't look it up right at this second. 7812-5713 work, Kansas 7812. I have a 7812 book, and the 7812 is the reading. So this will work. What study do you recommend for foundations? I recommend my materials for the foundations, Lisa. Foundations of Reading and my brand new book. It's #1 in study guides on Amazon right now. So, okay, so let's go over a few things. This test is going to assess the foundational skills of reading first, then that brings you towards comprehension, okay? So the goal is to get students to comprehend, right? When we read and we have pictures in our minds and we can predict and we go, oh, you know what I think is going to happen? I think the girl is going to, jump out of the woods or something, right? We're reading something and we predict. That is all very complex processes in the brain that we often take for granted. And those have to be taught. And before students can gain comprehension, which is the essence of reading, they have to first learn, and remember, in a systematic way. We start with phonemic and phonological awareness, and that has to do with sounds only. Then we move to phonics. That's about decoding the words. You're looking at the word and you're sounding out based on the codes inside the word. Quick point. Phonemic and phonological awareness, you do not have to see the word. We're doing it. We can do it in the dark. That's what my reading coach told me when I first became a reading teacher. You can do phonemic and phonological awareness in the dark. All right. You're just sounds only. Phonics, you have to look at the word. It's called letter sound correspondence. You have to see that in the word make, the A is next to a K and a silent E in order for it to be make, long A, right? So that's decoding. That's phonics. Then we move to fluency, where we're reading strings of words, sentences, paragraphs, passages. And then we move into vocab, which is part of the meaning-based. Now we're moving up. Then comprehension, which is up here. And then, of course, writing. Writing and comprehension are linked because in order to communicate through your writing, you have to be able to comprehend text, all right? Let me share my screen really quickly so I can show you sort of with a visual how this all ends up here. Okay, so this is the Foundations of Reading study guide. You can see this table of contents is huge. And here's the teaching reading study guide. And this table of contents is huge. Notice teaching reading. We have phonological and phonemic awareness. That's down at the bottom of the reading continuum. Then phonics, we're moving up. Letter sound correspondence. Then vocabulary and fluency, moving up. Now, the teaching reading groups vocabulary and fluency together. The Foundations of Reading puts it in the comprehension meaning-based. Doesn't matter. Same thing. With the Foundations of Reading, we have code-based here, which is phonemic and phonological awareness, phonics and fluency. And then we get into meaning-based, which is understanding the meaning behind the words. And it is vocab and comprehension. Then both tests assess assessment. Because, and those of you taking the 5302 as well, assessment is a huge part of teaching reading. You have to make sure you know how to assess code-based skills, meaning-based skills, fluency skills, all of these different things. And so that's a big part of it. Formative, summative assessments, criterion reference, norm reference, and I go through all of that in my book, all right? Now, let me show you something when we talked about before about the systematic nature of the reading continuum. Let me just go here really quickly. This is the digital version of the book. Okay, here we go. Well, let's go. Sorry to make you dizzy. I have to find this chart. Maybe it was up here. Yes. Okay, here it is. So this is the phonics continuum. Let me zoom in. And we also have the phonemic and phonological awareness continuum, but this is the systematic manner. You really need to know the order by which students get this information, okay? And so you can see we have single consonants, single vowels, doublets, consonant blends, and it goes in order. Now, typically what they're going to do on the test is they're going to have it start out with like, oh, they're doing single consonants and single like short vowel sounds. And then the next is probably going to be consonant blends would be the next. But the answer choices are going to be like consonant blends, which is the most obvious next step. And then they're going to jump to like diphthong, schwa, and silent letters, right? And those are way advanced. So go with like the next most obvious step. They're not going to make it so nuanced that you have to like know the exact location of these skills. It's going to be like, oh, you're here at short vowel sounds. Then the next answer choice is blends or diphthongs and like vowel teams. Those are way above. So don't worry so much about memorizing the chart. Just understand the progression of this. Someone's asking, does 7002 have any writing? No, you're lucky. The 7002 is the 5205, but without the constructed response. Okay. This page is on the fort. If you have the full study guide, this is page 38. Keisha, if you have the Foundations of Reading test, this is not the free study guide. Okay. So when you buy from us from our website, you get a digital study guide, and that 20% off coupon works for our website. When you buy on Amazon, it's physical and we don't do discounts. I can't do a discount on Amazon. When you want the full like physical study guide, Amazon sends this to you. So that 20% off coupon won't work for that. I'm going to show you where to get all this in a minute. I just want to go through a few things here. Okay. Teaching reading, same thing. I've got the same stuff here. Where are we? Yep. See, here we go. And all of that. They also want you to understand CVC. It's a complicated test, like CVC, CVCE patterns. This is all really important stuff, and it's complex. So if you're having trouble passing this test, it's okay. All right. So with the free study guide today, you got this. It's an abbreviated version with some questions, okay, and answers, and same with foundations of reading. Now, here's the thing. My answer explanations are very detailed in all my books. Please read the answer explanations. This is important when you're studying. What I see people do is they go straight to the practice test and they just do practice tests over and over again. That is not going to help you on this exam. These questions are so lengthy and scenario-based that you have to understand what they're asking you. And I'm going to show you in context in a minute. But please stop doing practice tests over and over again and expecting to pass. Some people will, but I don't know what test you're going to get on test day. And my questions are not going to be the exact questions on the exam. Just like your teacher tests are not going to be the exact tests for your students' tests from the state reading test, right? If a student went up to you and said, hey, I took the state reading test and none of the questions you had on your teacher tests were on the actual exam. And you'd say, well, I don't know what questions you're going to get on the actual state test. That's like test security. So it's very important that when you get something right, you still read the answer explanations because it'll glean more information. And I go into it very in depth why the other answer choices are not correct. Now, this one's a little bit bigger than the 5205. I kind of go hard on the answer explanations in the fort. I've really beefed these up because I find that it really helps people. The teaching reading still has let me show you here, very detailed answer explanations as well. It just doesn't have as in-depth, but please read the answer explanations. And especially if you got it wrong, why did you get it wrong? Understanding why something is incorrect is just as powerful as learning why something is correct, okay? So these are the free study guides you got with the thing. And now we're going to move into my actual presentation. We're going to go through a few of those questions on the exam. But let me just show you if you're wondering where you can get these books, because I know some of you want to do that. Let me go here. So this is our website, KathleenJasper.com. You'll see in the chat that Yana has given you a 20% off coupon for things that come from my website. So here are the study guides. I'm just going to show you Foundations of Reading because this one is the latest. Now, when you buy from us, you get a digital download. It's sent to your email and it looks like I just showed you on the screen. It comes in a PDF. You can download it. Don't print it out. That's going to cost a lot of money. If you want the full study guide, just click physical copy here. It'll take you to Amazon and you can see it's going to be 2-day shipping. All right. Now we can't use offer codes on Amazon because they're the publisher. But I would encourage you to go down. We've got a lot of good 5-star reviews here. Initially, this book is brand new. And buy the new, don't buy the used because the used is going to have writing in it. Okay. If you buy a used study guide, it's going to have writing in it. And we get emails that say, hey, it had writing in it. I can't control that. You bought from a third-party person and they wrote in the study guide. Buy the new, it's only a couple bucks more. Okay, so this is physical. And then this is the digital if you buy the digital here. Okay, sent to your email right away. Now, beyond that, we have online courses for the Foundations of Reading. And this is what that looks like. This is the online course. If you like what I'm doing here, you'll love the online course. It's got videos for every single skill, every single part of the book, quizzes that go with the book, and full explanations. It also comes with the digital study guide. Same thing with the teaching reading online course. Same thing. This one's a little bit less expensive because it has fewer categories. But you have, videos for every single content category. It comes with the digital study guide. It has quizzes that match the study guide. And in both, I have extensive constructed response prep for you so that you understand how to do that. And we're going to go through the constructed response today as well. Okay. So that's where you can get our stuff. It's on our website. And I just wanted to let you guys know that because you are getting the offer code in the chat. And I want to make sure you know where to apply that. I just bought the online course for the fort. Awesome, Lisa. I'm so glad. Let us know how you like it. Okay. I struggle with questions to match the skill with the grade. I find it super hard to memorize all standards for all grade. Tab, you don't have to do that. Let me show you what we're talking about here. Let's get into my presentation here. Okay. So let's share here. Let's do some practice tests here. All right. Jumping ahead here. Okay, so the first part of this is going to be foundations of reading. So I would recommend downloading both study guides from both free study guides from the the landing page that you get to, or from your email that you get after this, because they have different things in them. I'm going to do about 5 from foundations of reading and 5 from teaching reading. You guys, it's the same test. They do the same stuff, same standards, everything. Okay. Now, Tab was saying, I find it hard to memorize all the standards. You just need to understand that in the lower grades, we're talking about phonemic and phonological awareness. We're also talking about phonics. As we move up, second grade, third grade, fourth grade, we're working on fluency, vocab, and then, of course, comprehension in the later grades. But we want to be pushing students towards all of this in all grades, okay? But the foundational skills happen in those foundational grades. Okay. All right. So let's have a look at this. Now, remember, I am constantly telling you guys to work backwards. And on this test, working backwards works because these are huge scenario based questions. They usually have long answer choices and you get turned around and it becomes, difficult. What I want you to do is I want you to start here. Okay. Let's look at the answer choices and see if we can find any good words and remove bad words. And let me move this up a bit so my head is out of there we go. Hopefully that works. Okay. A, encourage students to write phonetically by stretching out the sounds they hear in words. Okay. Writing phonetically is also called inventive spelling. It's sort of when students write words like, instead of saying was, W-A-S, which is a weird sight word that doesn't follow the rules, they might spell it like this. And that's okay because they are hearing the sound. So that's good. B, read a predictable text and ask students to identify punctuation marks. All right, here's why this is bad. Predictable text or decodable text are books like Matt sat on his lap and read the book. Very easy, sort of systematic sentences where the students kind of predict what's happening and they're using those short vowel sounds. The reason why we do this is for phonics and also to get into like a fluent way of reading, to identify words quickly and get confident in our reading. Punctuation marks, why would we count punctuation marks? That seems like a silly task, has nothing to do with reading. So I'm crossing it off. C, show students how to hold a book and track print left to right with their fingers. Okay, that is print awareness. We read from left to right. And if you're standing in the front of the room with like a big book, they have those big books projected, and you're sweeping your hand across like this, you're showing students that we read from left to right, top to bottom. So it is a skill. I'm not going to cross it off. D, ask students to identify uppercase letters from a set of magnetic letters. Okay. So, I don't love D mainly because of identify. It's a low level skill. I don't hate it though. I'm going to not deal with anything here. Now, of course, you might say, this is going to take me so much time. Look how much time it's taking her. I'm literally reading every single one to you and explaining every single one. This is not what you would do on the test. You would quickly look at these, identify any good words, eliminate any bad words, and then jump to the question. Okay, let's read the question. Which of the following activities best integrates concepts of print and the alphabetic principle for an emerging, keyword here, emerging reader? Well, if we're talking about alphabetic principle, A is best. Now, notice it has concepts of print. Well, C is concepts of print. show students how to hold a book and track from left to right. That's print concepts, right? But it doesn't also include the alphabetic principle here. We have to do the alphabetic principle. And by writing phonetically and stretching out the words, we do get both, because concepts of print includes writing versus pictures and things like that. And then sounding out, stretching out the sounds and words the sounds they hear in words. That is alphabetic principle. So C is out only because it covers one of the things. And they do that a lot. There'll be two things in the question stem and only one is covered in the answer. So be careful. And then uppercase letters, that could be concepts of print too, but it really is not the best answer here. We're looking at encourage students to write phonetically. And notice here, we're working on sounds. We're working on phonics. We're writing phonetically. So technically not exact phonics. We're listening to sounds and words. We're actually writing. A is just a better strategy, a better activity too, because it's really working all the skills here. Okay. All right. Let's have a look at the next one here. All right. Let's read the answer choices. This is number 3 in the Foundations of Reading book. Focus on teaching the student high frequency sight words that include A, U, and GHT. All right. Focusing on high frequency sight words, and also these vowel teams and trigraphs typically are not in sight words. Maybe, I don't know. I don't love A. B, use phonemic blending, okay, activities to help students pronounce words like caught. Okay. C, teach the student to guess unfamiliar words. Guess. Nope. Right away. Guess is out. We're not guessing. Guessing is not learning to read. Okay. And then this one here, I'm just going to move this up a little bit. Provide explicit, there's that word, instruction on diphthongs and trigraphs and apply these patterns in words. Let me tell you why D has all the good words in it. First of all, we have the term explicit. Remember at the beginning of this webinar, I said explicit instruction is key. All the research points to that, right? It's effective. If we're doing explicit instruction in diphthongs and trigraphs, these are high-level skills. You'll see that in the Phonics continuum. We are modeling. We are making sure that students understand these in isolation, right? And then the term apply. If we are talking about Bloom's taxonomy and the progression of skills, right? We are pushing students towards application. Well, what is application? We're not just remembering something. We're not just identifying something. We are actually taking the skills that we learned and apply it to reading, applying it to patterns in words. So D has all the good stuff in it. Let's go ahead and read the question. A second grade student is decoding the word caught and struggles with vowel teams like AU, okay? And consonant trigraphs like GHT. What is the most appropriate instructional strategy to address these challenges? Now, you might say, well, A is good. I mean, if we can get them to focus on sight words, they'll just know the words. And B is good because, blending is good. It's saying here, most appropriate. They do this a lot as well on the test. 3 or 4 answer choices will all look good. And I get this question a lot from people in emails and online on social media. When I take the test, all 4 answer choices look good and I don't know which one to pick, okay? This is where those good words that I talk about come into play. And in all of my study guides, I have a glossary of good words. They come directly from the test specifications. Those are the words that the testing company actually uses in their specs and in the standards. They come directly from the standards for reading. And they zero in on the types of practices they want you to use in the reading classroom. And that's why D has it all. Explicit instruction. Also, it includes both diphthongs and trigraphs. And here we have trigraphs and diphthongs. The is a trigraph. It's a vowel team as well. It's 2 vowel sting sound. A straight vowel team just makes 1 sound. For example, in the word pie, that's a vowel team as well, 2 vowels working together, but it says the first vowel's name, pie. See how it says the I sound, right? In caught, it makes a ah. Do you see how it starts at 1 sound and moves to another? Or like in coil oi, that's a diphthong as well. It's a vowel team, two vowels working together, but it has a special sound. All right. So that's why this is not just a vowel team, it's a diphthong. So they're kind of testing that. And then, oops. And then they are also working on your trigraphs. Okay. All right. No. Okay. Sorry about that. Had a couple buttons being pushed there. All right. Let's go to number 4, foundations of reading. Answer choices first. Inflective morphemes change the word's meaning, while derivational morphemes change the word's part of speech. Inflectional morphemes indicate grammatical relationships, while derivational morphemes, blah, blah, blah. Let me show you what's going on in these answer choices, okay? This is one where, and they do this a lot on tests, they're showing the difference between two things. So they're saying, this thing does this, and this thing does that, right? And a lot of times we can get rid of it based on the first couple of words. For example, inflectional morphemes change the word's meaning. No, they don't. I'm going to go over inflectional morphemes and derivational morphemes in a second. I'm just going to show you quickly, once you know this, how quick you can work through the answer choices. B, inflectional morphemes indicate grammatical relationships, while derivational morphemes create new words or change the word's part of speech. Yep. Let me go to C. Inflectional morphemes apply only to verbs. Strong language, only, never, always, unequivocally, typically are not the correct answer. I'm going to cross it off. D, inflectional morphemes occur at the beginning of the word, while derivational morphemes occur at the end, not necessarily. All right. B is the answer. And notice I didn't even have to read the question. Let's talk about inflectional morphemes versus derivational morphemes. And again, like, if you're not studying for the reading exam, when have you ever talked about these? First, what are morphemes? Morphemes are small units of meaning in a word. Typically, they have to do with prefixes, suffixes, and roots. Okay. They're chunks of the word. Also, compound words. Sidewalk has 2 morphemes, side and walk. When we are talking about inflectional morphemes, we're talking about S's and EDs. For example, in the word jumped, I apologize for my sloppy handwriting. I'm doing a ton of writing, but on the typing. So my terrible handwriting is coming out right now. Okay. In the word jump, right? To like rise up in the air. I don't know what the exact definition of jump is, but to like jump up and down, right? If I added an S, does it change the meaning of the word jump? Does it change from a verb to a noun? No, it just makes it plural, right? He jumps, she jumps. Okay, they jump. It's the same. It's just got this little inflectional morpheme. If I said jumped, the ED, does that change the meaning or the part of speech? It's still a verb. It's just a past tense verb, right? So inflectional morphemes do not change the word's meaning or change the part of speech. They just add an S, an ED. They just sort of change how many, that kind of thing. Derivational morphemes do change the meaning. Let me show you what I'm talking about there. All right. When we talk about happy, happy is an adjective, right? If I turn it into happiness, now it's turned into a noun. I changed the whole part of speech. Or if I did unhappy, now I changed the meaning. I went from happy, like feeling great, to unhappy, feeling not so great. Okay. And notice they can happen at the front or the end. That's why D is out at the beginning or at the end. They happen in different parts of the word. I don't know. Inflectional morphemes might only happen at the end. I'd have to like do research, but I know derivational morphemes don't just occur at the end. They can be in the front. Okay. So notice that a derivational morpheme changed the part of speech and or changed the meaning. So I like to remember it like this. Derivational are like, they derail the word. Derivational derails the words. So that's just, I make up dumb little things like that. I'm sure you have your own like weird things that you make up. That's how I go with it. And that's why B is the correct answer. Inflectional morphemes indicate grammatical relationships like jumps versus jumped versus jump. The S, the ED And then no morpheme at the end is just grammatical, right? Plural versus singular versus past tense. Derivational create new words. Obviously, look at happy, happiness, create new words and change the word's meaning and part of speech. And or sometimes it doesn't change the meaning, but it changes the part of speech. So B is the best answer there. Tough. These are not easy questions. That's why it's important to understand everything in the book. Please read the book. Read the book if you have the book, because it's also going to help you with the constructed response, okay? Would inflectional morphemes be considered suffixes? Yes. Yes. I just have to make sure. I don't know if there are any inflectional morphemes that are used as prefixes. I want to say no. Those of you who are already crazy reading teachers who know like reading teachers are crazy. They know every little rule. So let me know. I believe inflectional only happen as suffixes, only at the end. Kimberly says it. All right. If Kimberly, I'm gonna take your word for it, but it makes sense because it doesn't change the part of speech and it doesn't change the meaning. Derivational can happen on the end or at the beginning. Okay. Thanks, Kimberly, for clearing that up. All right. Let's have a look at the next one. Number 5, last one for foundations of reading. Using phoneme graphing mapping to improve word recognition. All right. So I love phoneme grapheme. Phoneme grapheme is phonics. Phoneme sound, grapheme letter. Sound letter. You have to see the letter. Okay. If it's just phonemic awareness, it's sounds only. But as soon as we hit this grapheme, so remember that for the test, phoneme grapheme and letter sound correspondence are the same thing. I like mapping as well, like orthographic mapping, committing them to memory. It's like a fancy word for memorize. They don't like the word memorize, so they use the word orthographic mapping. It's more complex than memorizing, but it's still kind of the same thing. And improving word recognition. I like it. I don't hate it. B, pre-teaching background knowledge related to the text topic. Oh, I like that too. That's called schema also. And it helps with students' fluency, and it also helps with comprehension later. See, encouraging silent reading to develop prosody. Okay, silent reading. Typically a bad word on this test, okay? Not in life. I love silent sustained reading. And here's my tip for those of you who are new teachers who want to get your kids to read silently in the classroom. And you're like, every time I assign silent reading for 15 minutes, they don't do it. You have to do it too. The way that I got my kids to read silently in my reading classes, I'd bring in my own novel, I'd sit at the front of the room, and I would read silently. If I went back to my desk to put in grades or to grade papers or whatever, they weren't doing it. You have to model the behavior. Model. And so I just said every class, I'm going to read my own book for 15, 20 minutes. And I enjoyed it as well. So if you're trying to do silent reading, this is just a side note, model the behavior. If anytime you want them to do anything, model the behavior. If you go back to your desk to do anything, they're not going to do it. If you have cooperative learning, you should be walking around the room. If you've got writing workshop, you should be walking around the room. You know this. The minute you sit at your desk, they're done. They're going to talk to their friends. And adults do the same thing. Okay, so just remember that. But on the test, typically, silent reading is not the right answer because it's usually attached to students who are struggling with something. And if students are struggling, silent reading is not going to help them. All right. Even though I love silent reading. All right. And D, modeling fluent reading and practicing phrase cued reading. What's phrase cued reading? That's when you take like shorter phrases and break them off and let students sort of read those and they get better at that. Okay. I love D because it has the word modeling, and modeling goes with explicit instruction. Let's see. A teacher observes that a student reads fluently, but without appropriate expression when encountering academic texts with complex sentence structures. What strategy would best support? All right, appropriate expression, that's prosody. All right, now you have the word prosody here, but silent reading is not going to help them with expression if they're having trouble with that, right? Modeling will. Modeling prosody, stopping at periods, pausing at commas, reading with inflection. And I'm sure you all know kindergarten teachers out there who are like the best model readers. My mother was a kindergarten teacher. She would read from books. She has the most beautiful reading voice. She does the most amazing prosody. You know what I'm talking about. Those teachers who just have it. This is awesome because when students see you do it, then they know what to do. And that's why D is the best answer. All right, let's move on to, one more. Sorry, number 10, foundations of reading. Have students practice reading aloud in class. All right. Read aloud to students so they can hear fluency, sort of modeling. Reference student data to determine what skills students are lacking. Okay. This is an assessment piece. I'm going to give an assessment, look at the data, and then make an instructional decision based on the data. That's got all the stuff in it. I love that. D, ask the reading teacher for a list of students who struggle with reading. All right. This is typically wrong because we don't want to depend on other teachers, the reading coach, the paraprofessional, the assistant principal, the peer teacher. We got to figure it out in our classrooms. Okay. Now, in life, you might go to the reading coach and say, hey, I'm struggling with these couple of kids. Can you come in and help me with them? Or you might ask your peer teacher. That's real life. This test, you have to figure it out in your classroom. And referencing data and making instructional decisions based on that is always the best answer. Let's read the question. How can a content area teacher enhance students' experiences with content area text? Okay, I'm a science teacher and I want my students to read better in science class. And I was a science teacher as well. I was a reading teacher and a science teacher. And science and social studies are two of the best classes to read informational text. It is such an opportunity to sharpen these informational text, academic text reading skills. So if a teacher came to me and asked, what students are struggling, when I was a reading teacher, if like the science teacher or the PE teacher or anybody said, hey, I need a list of students who are struggling with reading, I'd be like, oh my gosh, here are the list of students. Here's a set of, I would give the person strategies. I would totally walk them through the whole thing. But on this exam, we need that teacher to sort of do it themselves. And so they would go into the student database, look and see who's struggling, and then use content area strategies, content area text to meet those students where they are. And that's why C is the best. Now, A, B, and D are all like, you would do that as a new teacher, right? But C is the best. Remember, go with the most appropriate. All right, let's look at the Praxis Teaching Reading Study Guide. This is number 2. And I can see this not is standing out. So I'm looking for a not answer. When that happens, I want to read the question first because 3 out of 4 of these are correct, basically. And there's one that's incorrect. And the incorrect one is the correct one, right? They do this thing with you. It switches the brain up. Okay. So let's have a look. Which of the following would not be a systematic instructional strategy for phonemic awareness? All right. What is phonemic awareness? Sounds only in words. Okay. So identifying the beginning sounds in words is phonemic awareness, and we're looking for the not answer. So A is out. B, clapping syllables. That's phonological awareness. That's bigger chunks of the word. Phonemic and phonological awareness are different in that phonemic awareness is individual sounds, like in b, a, t, right? Let's do a 2 syllables so I can show you the syllables. So like rabbit, a, b, it. That would be phonemic awareness. Phonological awareness would be rabbit, right? So B looks like it's my answer because that would be a different skill than phonemic awareness, and we're looking for the not answer. C, identifying ending sounds in words. That's phonemic awareness. D, deleting sounds in words. That's also phonemic awareness. B is the best answer because clapping syllables is definitely phonological awareness, and it's different. Again, slight little nuances here on this test that you really have to know. All right, let's have a look at this. Work on silent letters, identify R-controlled vowels, blend long vowel sounds with consonants, identify common vowel combinations. Okay, right away, the answer choices tell me that this is going to be one of those phonics skill systematic progression questions. I'm going to need to know which comes next, right? Let's read the question. Students have mastered consonant sounds and short vowel sounds. So words like cat, right? Short A, short A, and a hard C and T, right? Which of the following would be the most appropriate next step in the teaching sequence? So here's that continuum, all right? Now, silent letters is typically very advanced. Our controlled vowel sounds, advanced. Letter, oh gosh, now I can't even, driver. Our controlled vowel sounds, that second syllable is R controlled. Blending long vowel sounds with consonants. Well, notice we went from short vowel sounds with consonants to long vowel sounds with consonants. C looks like, just in a normal way that it would be the answer. And D, identifying vowel combinations. So this is considered vowel teams and diphthongs. So D would not be it. C is the best answer, okay, for this. We went from short to long. And again, I told you in the beginning, you're not going to have to totally know every single step perfectly, but you have to know the general idea, we go from short to long vowel sounds, okay? All right, let's have a look at this. These are short. I can't do much here with my answer choices. Let's go ahead and read the question. A teacher wants to work on students' expressive vocabulary. Okay. What would be the most effective activity? Okay, expressive means we are speaking it, right? So there are two different types of skills here. We have expressive and receptive. Receptive is when we receive. When we read and listen, we receive the information. When we speak and write, we express. So it's going to be speaking and writing. Listening and reading, that's receiving. No, it's not expressing. Speaking and listening, speaking is expressing, but listening is not. B is out. Reading and writing. Reading is not expressive, but writing is, but you need them both to have expressive. So this is going to be the answer there. All right, let's have a look at number 8. Reading through the text, only stopping at words he or she needs to decode. Okay. Reading with inflection and expression. Okay, that's prosody. C, reading effortlessly through the text at greater than 95% accuracy. This is the independent level. Reading through text using sight words. No, we don't only use sight words. I'm crossing off D. If a student is reading with automaticity, the student is reading effortlessly, greater than 95% accuracy. And you might say, wow, that's a lot, right? Yes. Automatic means they're automatic. They're making very few mistakes. Anything less than 95% is the instructional level. And anything less than 90% is the frustration level. You might say, well, 90%, that's a lot. Yeah, but when you're reading and you're missing 10% of the words, I'm sure you all have seen it where students are sounding out each word in a passage and they're struggling. It's super laborious, right? You're like, oh my God, I'm exhausted just listening to that. When we want students to be automatic, they need to be cooking, just reading through that. And how do we do that? If you ever get a constructed response about this, how do we increase it? Repeated reading. Read it again, read it again, read it again. That's going to help them get to that 95% or greater accuracy. All right, number 10. After this, we're going to go to the constructed responses, okay? All right. A, the teacher should have the student focus on spelling because spelling is phonics and phonics is a necessary part of comprehension. Okay, spelling is phonics. Spelling does help move you towards comprehension, but it's not necessarily a part of comprehension. I don't know. I'm not going to grab it. It's not the best answer. B, the teacher should have the student take a diagnostic test, okay, assessment, and then have the reading coach work with the student. Nope. Anything that involves outside people doing the job is not the answer on this test. C, the teacher should use a running record. Okay, I like it. That's a fluency assessment to record the miscues a student demonstrates during a 1-minute read. Okay, that's pretty good. D, the teacher should focus on fluency and automaticity strategies for the student because proper fluency and automaticity will reduce cognitive demand needed for decoding, leaving more cognitive space for comprehension. Yes. Cognitive demand, cognitive endurance is what we need students to use for comprehension. We do not want them wasting all that cognitive energy on sounding out words. That's why reading at 95% accuracy, moving through the text, is so important. Because we need the brain to be freed up to build pictures, to predict, to summarize all those complex skills that we talked about at the beginning of this webinar that we take for granted. If you're, and you know this as an adult, if you haven't read in a while, all right, and you're a little rusty, and you're reading science text or something sort of, your political text or something sort of heavy, and you're you can't get through it or whatever, and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm stopping at every word and blah, blah, blah. Are you able to comprehend what's going on? No, you're sounding out words. You're trying to figure it out, right? It isn't until your brain starts going, okay, I'm back in the reading mode. Let's go. that you can move through the text and sort of understand it. And all adults, like I have to reread things over and over again. That's why I hate these reading comprehension tests. I think they're so dumb. It's like in life, I read, reread, and take the time I need to understand text. But for a third grader, they need to read it in a minute and answer 10 questions. It's like, doesn't make any sense. Nobody reads like that, but I'm not in charge. So let's read the question just to make sure D is the right answer. A student is struggling during reading. The student often stops when encountering high frequency words. Okay, so high frequency words are like sight words. They're appearing a lot. And if he's trying or she's trying to decode them, this kid needs help. This interrupts the reading and makes it difficult for the student to understand the meaning of the text. Which of the following interventions? Okay, we need to work on fluency and automaticity. We need to do some predictable text. We might need to lower the level of text temporarily to get the student moving, and then repeat, and then up the rigor, up the level a little bit more, right? But we need that cognitive endurance for comprehension, and that's how you do that. Okay. All right. Before I move on to let's stop sharing here. I'm going to move on to the constructed response for both. Anybody have any questions? We've got a lot of people in here today. We're up to like 140 there for a minute, which is awesome. Any questions at all? Notice how I work backwards. I always tell you to work backwards. Good test takers are looking at the item as a whole. We're not starting from top to bottom. We're like starting at the bottom and working our way up. That's how good test takers. You want to think like a test maker, not a test taker. That's the phrase I use all the time. I'm taking the social studies test in a few months, and this has helped me so much. ELA isn't for another year for me. Okay. Well, yeah, definitely save this information for in a year. The social studies, if you're taking like the 5004 social studies, or any social studies exam, it's typically like memorizing content, like the Civil War and all that. This is more nuanced. This is like you have to understand the skill progression, Macy, but I'm glad you're getting a lot out of it. All right. I want to apply the work backwards method. You did a great job modeling that. Okay. So Maria, awesome. Work backwards in practice first. Don't just go, oh, I'm taking the test tomorrow. Like get into that mode and do it in your study guides, and it'll really help you. Okay. I brought a guide on study.com. Now I want your online course. Yeah, we're better than study.com, Tori. They're a way bigger company, but they sort of do everything, and we really focus on this one thing. What book I need for K3 third grade? I have a 5205 and a 5025 and a 5024. Tori, or no, not Tori. Sorry, Tori was saying how much better we were than study.com. Thanks, Tori. It was Armanda. I have pre-K, so go to my website. We've got that. Working backwards makes sense, and this became evident after these examples. Yes, and it really makes sense, you guys, for the super long questions. Those are the ones where working backwards, like those are the ones that at first are your toughest. When you learn to work backwards, there's always an answer choice that sticks out with the good word. And you're like, boom, there it is. Sometimes I've seen questions on like sample tests and things like that, where they have a huge scenario, sample data, like a data sheet. This happens a lot on the SLLA 6990. I'm doing a webinar for that in a couple of weeks. That's for the leadership exam. They have like page long item. And then in the answer choices, there's one answer that has like all the good words in it, and you don't even have to read the data. You don't even have to read the question. Now, you should read the question and check it. I'm not saying that, but I have done practice tests where I don't even read the question. I just use good words and I pass. So don't do that. I'm just saying that strategy works. My students have phoneme grapheme awareness, but struggle with blending sounds into words. What strategies would you recommend? Well, there's some phonics strategies there. You could do some kinesthetic, and this is good. Good question, Sarah. This would probably be a test question. You could use, Elkin boxes. Okay. That's in the Foundation of Reading book. They reference that a lot in the specs. So basically, we'll go over this because it'll help you with the test too. So let me just add a little thing here and let me share my screen. This is a good question, Sarah. Okay. So Elkin boxes they look like this. Okay. And the students have like counters. They have like these little counters here. Okay. And I'm going to use a really easy example. Let's say we're talking about sheep, right? Sheep. Well, the S and the H make one sound. It's a digraph, right? Shh. It doesn't make s. It's shh. So for the first sound, you would move it shh. The second one is EE, but it makes one sound, right? Let's oops. Take that off. Let's just write it here. So you guys, they might do this with just phonemic awareness. So we wouldn't write the word. We would just do it by sound, right? Because if we're doing phonemic awareness, we're doing sounds only. But for the sake of us doing this, I want to show you. So it's sh, e, p, right? So you could use these manipulatives where they're actually using their hands, which helps to connect. And this is actually a strategy you might use in the constructed response or the open response. And this is also on the test. So that's one way to do blending sounds that at a very quick level. And you said, I mean, you're doing phoneme grapheme awareness. Sarah, you must be kindergarten, first grade, maybe, unless you're doing more complex words. Lisa, I typically do not do this, but I will begin to train myself to work backwards and recognize good words. I'm telling you, it works. Now, if you don't like it in practice, some people don't like it, then abandon it and go back to your old ways, but try it. You'll see. I just took the special ed knowledge test. Now I have to take the 5205. Okay, great. A lot of the same strategies for the special ed will help you with this. How much time do you think one should focus study on the 5205? Okay, I get this question a lot. Let me stop sharing real quick, and then we're going to go into the constructed response. People ask me, how long should I study? It all depends. I think taking too long is not great because then you end up like not really studying. I say take like 2 weeks, 20 minutes a day. Take sections of the book, 20 minutes a day. If you're in the test every day practicing, you're going to be better than if you just take like 4 weekends and cram, right? Or 1 weekend and cram. Now, some people are good crammers. Some people can cram. I've never been able to cram. I have to really work at it. So you want to, maybe it's first thing in the morning while your family's asleep. You sit down at 5 a.m. That's my time to be alone. I'm up at like 4:30 in the morning because I like it quiet. And that's when my brain is like alive. By noon, I'm fried. So, you do 20 minutes, right? Read the book, do a few practice test questions, that type of thing. And just stay in the test every day. Now, if you want to do more, that's fine. Like I'm learning Spanish right now. I'm trying to get my conversational Spanish. I'm in Spanish every day for 30 minutes a day. And then I stop. I don't sit there for 5 hours. It's 30 minutes a day, right? And you will get better and better and better. All right. In the constructed responses, there are always more than one issue. Can I determine which one to pick? We're going to go through that tab. I'm not sure what you're asking there, but let me go through that in just a second. I found myself running out of time on the constructed response. Still need 10 points math. I'm going to show you how to nail the constructed response, Tamara. Lisa, does this timeline also go for the social studies Praxis? Yes, I say any test. Now, the 7001 and the 5001, those big elementary ed, that's going to take you longer. You might need a month. I mean, it's huge. It's 4 subtests, right? But these tests where it's just one subtest, 2 weeks or even a week, maybe you just need a week. Maybe you already know a lot of this. You're just brushing up on it without knowing your exact skills. It's hard for me to know. Lisa's saying I've studied way too long. I find with people who have a lot of test anxiety, they take too long. They're overanalyzing it too much. Try 2 weeks, 20 minutes a day, stay in the test, do a few questions. Now, when it comes to the practice test, if you want to do like a full practice test at the end of your studies, like let's say you've done all of this and you want to, and I have a video on how to use this. So we will put in, and it goes for the teaching reading as well in the email after this is done. You'll get the, how to use your study guide. I show you how to do a pre-test and then go in and all that stuff. So I'm not going to do that now because it goes with the book, but I'll send it to you in the email. So watch that video. But if you want to do a full practice test when you're done, that's obviously going to be more than 20 minutes. But in general, I would say 20 minutes in the test every day. Studying long lengths was not working for me. Yeah, it's just you're overdoing it. You're overdoing it. Keisha, will you explain the queuing system, please? Okay, sure. Yes. 1 second. Is this test timed for how long? Yes. At the beginning of my books, I have, each test is different. Let me see here. I'm sorry, I prepped for so many tests. I probably should have reviewed that before. Let's go to the blueprint part. Foundations of reading is 4 hours, 100 multiple choice questions, and 2 open responses. So, and I believe it's all one because they don't break it up by now the teaching reading. I have this in the book, just so you know. In the front of my books, I have the thing broken down to tell you. Okay, it's 150 minutes, 90 selected response questions, and 3 constructed response. And that looks like it's all in one giant thing. Sometimes some tests bracket out, like you get this much time for this and then this much time for that. Okay, Maria, you're saying how much time should you spend on each question? About a minute, 2 minutes. You don't want to sit there too long. Guess and go. Because here's the thing. If you spend a bunch of time analyzing a question and then there's like 5 other questions at the end of the test that you would have gotten correct, like why do it? So narrow it down 50-50 and grab it and go. Can you explain the scoring? All right, Valerie's asking the scoring here, and I will talk about queuing systems in a minute. The scoring is a scale score. They're using statistics to score your test. There's no way to tell what each question is worth, okay? They take your raw score, which is how many you got correct out of the total. So let's say you got 70 correct out of 90, okay? So let's just do that. 70 divided by 90. So you got about a 78%, right? They throw that into a scale score because some people get different forms of the test. You're not getting the same exact test as somebody else. Everybody gets form A, form B. Someone else gets form C. We're all getting different forms, right? Because of test security. So then they base it on test complexity, item complexity. Some items, especially those where you have to choose more than one, where it says choose all that apply, those are worth more points. So there's no way for me to tell exactly. And I wouldn't focus too much on that. Then you have the constructed response, which is 25% of the overall test. So like you just got a 77% or 78% on 75% of the test. Then you do the writing and you get whatever that is. Now, the writing is scored by 2 scores. So you're going to get it's out of 18, I believe, because you have 3 questions worth 3 points. That's 9 total times 2 scores. So 18 total. You want to be at like a 15 out of 18 out of the writing, and you want to be at least a 75 when in practice on your practice tests. A 75 is the safe zone on the multiple choice. You can get less than that. I think like you can pass with a D, but I like to tell people to get that 75 in practice or higher because that puts you at like the safe zone. Okay, people are asking about, do they submit it till the end? You can flag items and go back, but here's the thing. For those of you with test anxiety, you start flagging everything. I've seen you. You flag everything, and then you're like, and then you start changing answers. Don't do that. If there's one you really want to go back to, fine, but don't do that for too many. Just narrow it down, use that backwards approach and all of that, okay? For clarity, is 20 minutes a day for 2 weeks enough study time to pass the test? Typically, Tamia, yes. But if you have never seen this stuff before, you might need to add a week. If you've got it and you understand it and you're getting a 75% on the full-length practice test, you're ready, okay? Now, I have a ton of practice prompts in my books for constructed response. Let me go through the queuing systems first because somebody asked for that, and then we're going to go to constructed response. Okay, queuing systems. There are 3 main types: semantic, syntactic, and graphophonic, okay? Now, what are queuing systems in general? Queuing systems are when a student is reading like a paragraph and they get to a difficult word and they use tools to figure out the word. So it can be sort of a vocabulary situation, but it could also be like a phonics situation, right? It depends on which queuing system you're using. Semantic, meaning, semantic. That means you're reading around the word, maybe to see other words. Maybe you're using context clues. Maybe you're using the picture on the other page to figure it out, right? Meaning, semantic. There's an M in that one for meaning. Okay. That's the semantic cueing system, looking at other words to find meaning. Syntactic is grammar, syntax. So past tense, present tense, endings on words, ly, adverb, things like that. That's going to be syntactic. You're using grammatical relationships. And then graphophonic has the word phonic in it, phonics. You're sounding out the word based on phonics. Those are the three main cueing systems. Now, they might throw in pragmatic. And I think really pragmatic goes with semantic, but pragmatic typically goes with ESOL or ESL. And that's kind of the social way in which we speak. And so you would use that to figure things out, especially for passages that have like vernacular in them, you know, like when you like Huckleberry Finn or slang and things like that. Typically with your young kids, you're not using those types of books. So someone's asking about at-home testing. I've never taken the fort at home. I've never taken the fort, but I don't know if you get a whiteboard. I do believe you get some sort of graphing or some sort of scratch paper. And I'm going to show you how to use that scratch paper now when you do the constructed response. Okay. So we're going to move on that. Let's go down. Just making sure I did that. All right. Who asked for queuing systems? Do you have a podcast? Marina, people have asked me that, but it's like, what am I going to do in the podcast? Talk about testing? Like, I feel like that would be the most boring, the most boring podcast ever. I do have audio courses though. I do have audio courses for the teaching reading. So if you like that kind of thing, I'll show you where to get the audio course at the end. They don't let you use paper, Carolina? Even for the, okay. Well, I'll look into that. I know if you go to a testing center, you get paper. For at home, they allow either a whiteboard or a transparent page. Okay, good. Amber, thank you. Transparent page is like almost like a laminated page that you write on. Okay. All right. So let's share now. We're going to do constructed response. And you know what we're going to do? We're going to work backwards on the constructed response. Let me just move this, delete that. Okay, here we go. The first open response we're going to do is for the foundations of reading. But listen, this could be for the teaching reading as well. All right. Now, what are we going to do first? We're going to work backwards. This is why people get so messed up on this. I want you to go here. You're going to the task first. Set the purpose for the scenario. Set the purpose for reading, just like you would do with your kids, right? Make them work backwards as well, okay? So here it is. And there on the foundations of reading, it's always the same. Identify a strength, identify a need, which is a weakness. Based on this, identify an appropriate strategy, activity, or intervention to use with Noah. Notice we're talking about fluency here. So we need to find a strength in fluency, a need in fluency. Notice that I could think of some fluency strategies without even reading this particular scenario. What are fluency strategies? Repeated reading, phrase cued reading, modeling, prosody. If you're stuck on this, guess what? Modeling is a strategy, and it's a very effective strategy. So like if you're like, oh my God, I forget the type of strategies I would use. Model. Just model, and that will help. But fluency, I love repeated reading for fluency. That's like my go-to in class, like when I'm teaching kids, but it's also one that I would use on a lot of these. So already in my head, I've got phrase cued, repeated reading, modeling, prosody, all of that. Okay. And then explain why. This is what they put at the end here every single time. You're going to choose the strategy, intervention, or activity, right? And then you're going to say why it works. You got to have a rationale for it. All right. So right away, I can't figure out the strength until I read what's going on with Noah. And I can't figure out the need until I read what's going on, but I can have in my mind. And that's where that scratch paper comes in. Write down your one or two or whatever. Now you only need one. Don't go writing three. Don't make this more complicated. I have found that people do this. They want to show off their writing skills and they're like, I have a master's. I'm a great writer. And they write too much. We want to make it easy on the grader. So this is going to be 4 paragraphs. Paragraph 1 is going to be the need. Paragraph 1 is going to be the strength. Paragraph 2 is going to be the weakness or need. Paragraph 3 is going to be the strategy. And paragraph 4 is going to be the why the strategy works. Okay. Why do I do that? Because it tells the grader, here's bullet number 1, check. Here's bullet number 2. The easier you make this on the person reading your essay, the better your grade is going to be. Think about it. English teachers, tell me in the chat, when you're reading papers, if you are an English teacher like I was an English, science, and reading teacher. I taught like a bunch of different things at high school. Oh my gosh, reading essays that were like so wordy and so ridiculous. It was just like awful. And then I would get one kid who like check, did all the things I wanted. And I was so happy to read it, like 100. Oh my gosh, you're an amazing writer, right? So all day, these graders are reading the worst essays. Be the beacon of light that says to them, I'm only going to write what you asked me to write. Okay. And that's what this is for. All right. So now we have that in mind. Let's read the scenario. Ms. Patel is monitoring her second grade student Noah's reading fluency. She conducts a 1-minute oral reading fluency assessment using grade level passage and records the following data. Okay. What is a reading fluency assessment? This is most likely a running record where the student has the passage in front of him. In this case, it's Noah. And then the teacher has a piece of paper in front of her with the passage on it. And she marks any miscues and counts how many words per minute they read correctly and how many words they got incorrect and why and all of that. It's a way to sort of address miscues, right? So here's the data. Total words read, 85. Okay, he's at grade level. There's a strength, grade level. Errors, 12. That's a lot of errors, just so. But he self-corrects. That's a really good skill, okay? So right away, I just identified 2 strengths, okay? And a weakness. He had a couple of errors. Words correct per minute. He's only at 85%. That's at the instructional, or that's at the frustration level. And pace, he's 2 out of 4. So he needs some help, but he self-corrects and he's reading the number of words at grade level, but he's got some errors and all that. So we want to make sure we help this kid out. All right. Ms. Patel observes Noah's frequently pauses even when he knows the words. Okay. That's another error or another weakness. He will often reread strings of words that he had read correctly. My daughter used to do this. She would read the thing correctly and she would go back and reread it. It was a habit I had to break with her. It's just some kids don't have the confidence, right? So a couple things we could do. A strength is he self-corrects and he is reading on grade level. Weakness, he is below. He's at the frustration level. He also needs help with confidence, perhaps, because of this last sentence here. There's a lot of things we can do. All right, let's check it. Let's see what I did here. All right, so let's go with strength. And I go right in and say it. I don't need an intro sentence. I don't need anything like that. All right. Noah demonstrates a significant strength in his reading fluency pace, as evident by his ability to read 85 words in 1 minute, which is appropriate for a grade level. He also frequently self-corrects, indicating he understands and can identify correct words. All right. I sort of grabbed 2 strengths there. You could just go for 1. Noah, his significant strength is that he self-corrects, and that's important in reading, blah, blah, whatever. Okay. 2. However, he often hesitates on words and phrases even when he knows them. This indicates a lack of confidence while reading aloud. His overall accuracy is just 85%, which is at the instructional level. This should say frustration level. That was a mistake on my part. I'll fix that. In addition, his pace is just 2 out of 4. Okay. So now, could you combine 1 and 2 together? Sure. If you want to say, here's his strength, here's his weakness, you could put all of that in 1 paragraph. I just like to separate it out to make it easy on the grader. All right, here we go. Now we're going to talk about, this is the most important part, the strategy. Noah would benefit from repeated reading practice. Notice, I already had that in my head before I even read the scenario. I already knew I was going to do repeated reading. And now we have to get specific. You can't just say repeating reading would help Noah. Noah could repeat his reading and you go on and on about this. Let's get specific. The teacher can select a short passage or decodable text at Noah's instructional reading level and have him read the same passage multiple times. So what I just did there is I explained what repeated reading would look like in this scenario. Now, Let's get more specific. The teacher can model good word. Notice I'm using some of the good words that I got from my multiple choice. Fluent reading during his first reading by demonstrating appropriate pacing, expression, and accuracy. Noah would then practice reading the passage aloud while the teacher provides guidance. Over several sessions, the teacher can track Noah's progress by recording the words correctly per minute. The teacher can increase the complexity level. Okay, so notice what I did here. I said repeated reading. Then I defined it, what it would look like here. Then I got more specific in what the teacher would do during this. During the first read, the teacher would model and Noah would follow along. Second, Noah would read. And then as he reads more confidently, she might up the complexity level. Specific, very specific, okay? You might even put in there, for example, Noah could read with appropriate pacing. And, the words, for example, indicate you're about to get specific. All right, let me move this up a bit. You see it above my head. There we go. All right, number 4, why? What's the rationale? This instructional strategy would be effective for Noah because repeated reading helps build automaticity by recognizing words quickly and accurately. All right. By repeatedly encountering the same words and phrases, Noah will become more confident in his ability to decode and read them aloud. Additionally, hearing the teacher model fluent reading provides Noah with clear. So I did all this, it's got all the stuff. Now, this is sort of long, and I was a reading teacher and I wrote the book. So obviously this is easy for me. You could combine some things here. So let me erase. You're like, oh my God, this is too much. Especially we got a couple people where English is not their first language. Okay. All right. That's okay. What you could do, and let me see if I could. All right. So right away, we could combine that. All right. So we could take the first paragraph and we could combine the strength and the need, smush it together. All right. The other thing we could do is we could shorten this thing here. Noah would benefit from repeated reading, the teacher, blah, blah, blah. And then keep this. The teacher can model fluent reading during the first reading, demonstrating appropriate expression, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So let's say we're running out of time. Okay. And we don't have time for all this. Okay. We could, this right here satisfies it. We have the specific strategy, which is, and let me put it here. Noah would benefit from repeated reading. It asks for a strategy. I explain what that is. I got specific. Then I say what it would look like. She models it, and then he could do it. And then I say here, this instructional strategy would be effective for Noah because repeated reading helps build automaticity. Now I have the rationale, right? By repeatedly encountering the same words and phrases, Noah will be more confident in his ability to decode and read them aloud without hesitation. So look at this. I could get rid of that too. Oops, and then all of this got messed up. Let me turn that. All right, do you notice how I just went from 4 longer paragraphs to 2 shorter paragraphs? Both of them work. They both satisfy. Let's go back here. Did we identify a strength? Check. Did we identify a weakness? Check. Did we figure out a strategy? Check. Did I explain why it works? Check. Yes. And I was specific, and I used my good words, and I wrote grammatically correct. It all works. So somebody just asked, Lisa, what if it isn't 4 paragraphs? It can be 2. I wouldn't put it all in one. I would break it up because this shows the grader as well. Okay, here are my strengths and my weaknesses. This is bullet 1 and 2. Okay. And here is my strategy and my rationale. This is paragraphs 3 or this is bullets 3 and 4. You still want to sort of break it up. Don't just do a stream of consciousness. Want to break it up, but this works too. So just remember that. I always provide you with more in my books because I just want to give you a lot of examples, but you can cut it down, especially if English is not your first language and you want to keep it simple. Here's the way, especially for this part, okay? Name the strategy, define the strategy. Just saying repeated reading is not enough. So I got name it, define it, and what it looks like in this situation, right? We said Noah will read it several times. Then get specific. For example, the teacher can model fluent reading during the first read. Then Noah can read. I got that for example in there. Okay. You got to bring it back. Show me, don't tell me. Show me, don't tell me. That's important. There is a part in the rubric that says specific details. That's going to show your content knowledge. All right. And then let's see here. And then we have the rationale. We say this is helpful because repeated reading helps build automaticity. And then I go a little bit more. By repeatedly encountering the same words and phrases, Noah will become more confident in his ability to decode. So again, got specific. All right. So that'll help you there. Let's have a look at the next one. This is going to be the 5205 constructed response. Now, again, you might just have a little paragraph here, or you might have data. It doesn't matter. It might be a full, big, long page. It doesn't matter. Start with the task, working backwards. So with the foundations of reading, it's bullets here. They all have the same sort of structure, strength, weakness, and then strategy. But the foundations of reading do the same thing. They might ask you to identify a strength or a weakness too. But let's have a look here. Identify and describe a research-based comprehension strategy that a teacher can implement. Notice, comprehension strategy. I don't even have to read this particular scenario to figure out that comprehension strategy. My favorite one is read aloud, think aloud. Reading aloud as a class and thinking aloud as a class. It helps with metacognition and comprehension. Okay? And then the rationale, explain why it's effective. All right. So I would identify read aloud, think aloud. I would explain what it looks like in this scenario. And then I would explain why it is effective. It builds metacognition. It also models. The teacher is modeling how to use metacognition. And then task 2, identify and describe an assessment a teacher can use and explain why the assessment. All right. I'm in comprehension. What could the assessment be? Formative. I love formative assessments for comprehension. Observation with anecdotal notes. That's an assessment. You're listening to the student read and explain things, and you're determining if the student has comprehension. Anecdotal notes is the data you write down. The observation is the data. Okay. You could also use, a comprehension test, but I like formative assessment, just observation. Someone's asking how many constructed response questions are on the 5205? 3. All right, let's have a look here. A second grade teacher is concerned about a student who struggles with reading comprehension. The student can decode words accurately, but has difficulty understanding and remembering key details from the text. Okay, key details. When asked comprehension questions, the student often provides vague or incorrect answers. All right, so the student is reading, but they're not getting that metacognition. Read aloud, think aloud is going to help this student. All right, this is just 2 paragraphs here. Okay, so I'm starting with task number 1. I'm going to identify the research-based strategy, and I'm going to tell you why it's effective, and I'm going to give specific details. Here we go. Right away, one effective research-based comprehension strategy for improving the student's reading comprehension is read aloud, think aloud. And now I explain it. I define it. In this strategy, the teacher reads the text aloud while modeling metacognitive thinking by verbalizing thoughts, predictions, questions, and connections. Look at this. For example, the teacher might say, I wonder why the character feels this way. Let me reread to find clues. That's modeling. And I just got very specific. Now, I'm about to give you the rationale. So I just gave you 2-3 sentences on the strategy. Now the rationale. This approach is effective because it explicitly demonstrates how skilled readers engage with text. And then I give you one more sentence. By regularly practicing think alouds, the student will learn to actively monitor yada, yada from text rather than passively decoding words. Okay. So 2 or 3 sentences for the actual strategy. And remember, for example, tells the grader, I'm about to get specific. Give me some extra points. And then 2 or 3 sentences for the rationale. Now, same thing. I need to do my assessment here. To monitor the student's progress, the teacher can use formative observation with anecdotal notes. I came up with that before I even read the scenario. Now, let's define it. This involves systematically, good word, from my multiple choice. I'm using my good words in here, modeling, metacognitive, systematic, recording students' responsive engagement and comprehension strategies in a structured way over time. For example, the teacher might note, and here's that for example, whether the student is making predictions or asking clarifying questions when it comes to key details. Now I'm getting to the rationale. This assessment is beneficial because it provides ongoing qualitative data that can inform instruction. That comes straight from the assessment section on the in the study guide. That is literally formative assessments, ongoing formative data. They help you to progress monitor and inform instruction. Formative informs instruction. And then here we go. Unlike formal assessments, anecdotal notes can capture real-time moments and you can adjust strategies, blah, blah, blah. Very formulaic. Name the thing, define the thing, get specific on the thing, give me the rationale of the thing. That's going to help you. All right, let's go back to here. And again, you'll get the constructed response in the email that you're about to get in about 20 minutes. Tab, the science of teaching reading constructed responses are different. Questions are much longer and more general. You have to identify and name weaknesses. They are not going to tell you students' struggles with fluency. I've seen the STR constructed responses and they look a lot like the foundations of reading constructed responses. Now, sometimes they give you more data. I just had to fit it on a screen here. But here's the thing. Think about, this is what I talk about in the online courses. You want to have strategies for all these skills, okay? Not 100 strategies. Have some strategies for phonemic and phonological awareness, okay? Phonemic awareness, you could do a deletion activity, deleting sounds or adding sounds or breaking it up by sounds. For phonological awareness, you could be clapping syllables. Phonics, you could work on decoding words. You could use decodable text. You could use predictable texts. Okay. Fluency, repeated reading or modeling prosody. Vocabulary, you could work on tier 1, 2, 3 words. You could do a word wall. All of this is in the text. Okay. Just have 1 or 2 strategies for each skill. Comprehension, read aloud, think aloud is my go-to. You could also do predicting, graphic organizers, things like that. Okay. So it doesn't matter what you are getting. They want you to have content knowledge. And if you know phonemic and phonological awareness and you have a couple strategies for that, couple strategies for phonics, couple strategies for fluency, couple strategies for vocab, or a couple strategies for comprehension, you're going to be fine because it doesn't matter how long the thing is. They're going to ask you about a specific skill the student is lacking and how you are going to fix it. That's the point of this test. The student is struggling here. What would you do? Be specific. And why would you do that? Why does it work? That's the formula for literally every essay test in teacher certification. I've seen them all. All right. So hopefully that'll help you with the STR. It doesn't matter, like try not to get too hung up on, and I'd say this also with multiple choice, try not to get too hung up on like, well, this question asked me this and this question asked me that. They're assessing all the same stuff, foundational skills, meaning-based skills, and then of course, assessment. How do you assess it? How do you figure out what your kids need? All right. Any more questions? Let me show you. Go ahead and put them in the chat. I'm going to show you where to get some more stuff here. Okay. Maria, I see where I went wrong with my written response. I didn't use specific terms. Yes. You will lose points for that. If it's too general, use words like, for example, that signals you're about to tell the grader that you're going to be specific. It really, really helps. Hi, we'll be taking the foundations of reading in June. Is it too early to start studying? No, I would, have a look, watch my videos. I'm going to show you where to get all this. Okay. All right. So let's go. Let me go to, okay, real quick, just if people were here late. On the study guides, we have the foundations of reading test. We also have the teaching reading, 5205, 5206. I didn't see anybody in the chat with 5206. This is K-12. This is elementary. Most people take this. We have the digital download or the physical copy on Amazon. The 20% off coupon from this webinar goes with our website only. We can't give discounts on Amazon. Now, along with the teaching reading, we have this bundle for the audio course. Some of you are asking, do you have a podcast? This is like a podcast. I talk you through all the concepts and you can just put it in your headphones. All right. Now, I don't have one yet for the Foundations of Reading because I just published the book, but you could use this. If you like an audio course, you could take the teaching reading and the Foundations of Reading test and group them together. Now, this is only 15% off and you're getting a 20% off coupon. When you go to checkout, just undo this offer code and put in the 20% offer code and you'll get a bigger discount. We give you 15% off when you bundle, but you're getting a better discount. So do that at checkout. In your bag, you'll be able to undo the discount and put in the right discount, right? Now, beyond that, I have the online courses, of course, here. And it's got, everything you need and the digital download of the book. You can also use these as audio courses, all right? Obviously with the audio course, I don't go through test questions because it's like A, B. I mean, it just doesn't make sense with the audio course. It's more general where I talk you through all the concepts and the specifics of that. All right. We had a look at what the what's it called? Online course looks like. The Foundations of Reading is huge. It's just got more stuff in it. The teaching reading is big too, but the Foundations of Reading just has a lot. It's sectioned out differently. And of course we have the open response where I go through all of that. And then of course the online course for the teaching reading, same thing, content category quizzes, videos to go through everything. It just goes through everything. All right. Now beyond that, I'm on TikTok having a blast teaching. I hope you guys will be there with me. I love teaching on TikTok. I've got a lot of students too, high school students. I'm helping with APA formatting. A lot of undergrads are having a hard time with their bibliographies. So I'm working on that with them. Also tons of stuff for reading. I have the reading continuum here, the phonemic awareness continuum. I go through, phonics. Let's see, I got a Bloom's taxonomy here. I'm loving TikTok. Follow me there. I go live a lot there. Then, of course, we have our YouTube channel. And for those of you who are like, should I start studying now? This is a great place to start if you don't want to overdo it. I have a whole teaching reading playlist. Definitely check this out. This is going to help you with so many things. And of course, the replay of this webinar. What else? I'm on Facebook and Instagram as well. And that is basically it. Okay, will this video be able to be reviewed again? Yes, you're getting it in an email. You just click that, you'll be able to do it. Discount code, y'all got that? Can I buy online course for the 5003? Yes, Jill, and you can use the discount code from this. It'll work for the 5003. Yeah, and that one's huge. That has tons of video. It's like math. I go through every single math question on that. Yes, it'll be in the email. Purchase my online course, take my test in 6 weeks. Awesome. So you got 6 weeks, Tori. What I don't want you to do is do the whole online course like in the next 2 weeks and then you don't study anything. So stretch it out or maybe put it on hold. They don't expire. That's another thing. My online courses, you have them for as long as you want. Most companies, they expire. I don't do that. I think like sometimes you need a year. I mean, some people struggle. So you can have it. Once you buy it, it is yours. Do you have scheduled days of TikTok and Facebook? I know I need to schedule my days. I've just been so crazy with all of these videos. I do like to go live on TikTok. I promise to get a schedule. Facebook, I'm always live every Saturday here with a webinar. So another thing I wanted to tell you guys before I log off here. I'm starting SAT prep, ACT prep, and writing prep for high school students. That's where I started my business was ACT and SAT. But I moved to teacher certification because there was such a need and like, I just had an influx of teachers and it just became like the biggest thing, right? But I'm going back to SAT and ACT. It's not ready yet. I have a whole new website and things that are going on there. But if you have students who struggle with SAT, ACT, or you want your kids or your students to do better, I take my think like a test maker approach for the SAT, and I'm going to be developing courses for that. So just putting that bug in your ear or bird in your ear, I don't know what it is, to remember that. And I will do a bunch of videos on those as well. All right. Does the coupon expire? No, we should. They don't. The courses don't expire and the coupons don't expire for the most part. Not for a long time anyways. Where can I find the discount code? Brittany, I believe she threw it in there. Sarah, would you mind sharing your email for additional questions? You can email us at info@kathleenjasper.com and any questions you have will be answered there. All right, everybody, listen, thanks for spending your Saturday morning with me. An hour and a half is a long time to talk about reading and writing and all of that. I really appreciate you, and I'm so grateful you all are teachers. I know it's not an easy time to be a teacher right now, but focus on your kids and what you can do. It's a great profession. I loved being a teacher. I'm sure you do too. And if you need anything, let us know. And if you have questions or you want me to film something on my YouTube channel, send that to info@kathleenjasper.com. We'll put it on the list. Okay. Thank you, everybody. I am so thrilled that you were here with me today. Go do something fun, and I'll see you next week for elementary education next week, 5001. And then, after that, I do teacher interview webinar. You may want to check that out as well. Teacher interview webinar in 2 weeks. So that'll help you if you're trying to get a new job or switch schools.